Hello everyone and welcome to another video on JavaScript programming. Kaushal this side from SimpliCode, and today we are going to discuss the getElementsByClassName method in JavaScript. So before we begin, make sure that you have subscribed to our YouTube channel and press that bell icon to never miss an update from SimpliCode. So without any further delay, let's get started. So guys, in the past few videos, we used two different methods of accessing an element from an HTML file using JavaScript properties. So we know the difference between the ID method and the TagName method, right? Today we will use another method to access a particular element in JavaScript. That is the ClassName method, or we can say the getElementsByClassName method in JavaScript. So before discussing the ClassName method in JavaScript, let's look at why accessing an element is important in JavaScript. So we know that the document object model is used to change, add or delete HTML elements. We saw earlier that we could change HTML elements or the CSS style of any element in the document with the help of JavaScript properties. So to make specific changes to those elements, we need to access them using particular methods. So we discussed two such methods before, the ID method and the TagName method, right? So let's move ahead and look at the ClassName method of accessing an element in JavaScript. As the name suggests, the main attribute in this method will be the class name. So we know the difference between the class and the ID attribute used in HTML. We know that ID has to be unique for each element, but we know that many elements in an HTML document can have the same class, right? So we used class to access specific CSS properties in the previous videos, and that is the only benefit of using classes in JavaScript. So we can say that a single class can be used by many elements within an HTML document. So let's dig a bit deeper into this concept. So let's say we have 5 elements present on our website and we want to make changes in 3 of these elements, right? So let's write the code here and it will be easier for you guys to understand. So we'll write here in the HTML file, we'll add 5 different elements. So let's say we are writing here div, and then inside this div we'll write this is section 1. We'll copy this, we'll paste it here. So we'll use 2 div elements and 2 paragraph elements, right? So here in this p tag we'll write this is section 3, and then we'll copy this line, paste it again, copy this one as well and paste it here. So we have section 1, section 2, 3, 4 and 5. So out of these 5 different elements, we have 3 div tags and we have 2 paragraph tags. So we'll discuss why we have taken 2 paragraph tags in between the div tags. So we are done with it. Here you can see we have 5 elements present in a HTML document. 3 of them are the div tags. Section 1, 2 and 5 are div tags, and 2 tags in between are the paragraph tags. So now let's suppose we want to change the style of 3 of these elements. Let's say 1, 4 and 5. So we can do it in 2 ways, right? Either we can use the ID method or we can use the class method. However, we can use the TagName method as well, but we have to use 2 different variables for that, right? That will be a lengthy process. Why 2 different variables? Because we have 2 different tags present here, right? We have to create separate variable for the div tag and separate one for the paragraph tag. So that will be a lengthy process. So we'll consider ID method and the class name method for here. So considering the ID method, the document.getElementById method, we have to provide unique ID to each element. So we have to provide unique ID to this div tag, then we have to provide to each and every element here, right? So because we need to access 3 of these elements, so at least we have to provide the ID to those 3 elements which we want to access, right? So in such cases we can use the class name method where we want to access more than one element but not all the elements in an HTML file. So we'll use the class attribute in each element we want to access. So let's say we want to access section 1, 2 and 5. So we'll write here class, let's say the class name is CLS1. We'll copy this, paste it here, and we are accessing 1, 2 and 4 because 1, 2 and 5 are the div tags, so we can access these with the help of TagName method as well. So we'll access 1, 2 and 4. Fine. So we have used the class attribute here. Next up, we'll create a button and then we'll add functionality to a HTML document. So let's create a button here. We'll again use input type is equals to button, and then we have on click, and on clicking it will call func1, and then we have the value as submit. Fine. So save it, and here you can see in the browser we have 5 sections over here. We have section 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Then we have a submit button which will call the function on clicking. So we haven't added functionality till now, so let's move ahead to our JavaScript file and we'll add functionality to a HTML document. So inside this JavaScript file we'll write here function, and then we have the function name as func1. Then we have the body of this function. So the syntax remains a bit same. So we'll take a variable first and then we'll use the document method to take references of all the elements from a HTML file. So we'll write here where x is equals to document dot get elements by class name, right? And then we'll write the class name here. So the class name is cls1. Till now what we did was we took the references of all the required elements and stored them inside a variable named x in the form of an HTML collection. So now we can make changes to these elements, and what we'll do is we'll again use the style property to make styling changes in those 3 sections. So we have these 3 sections present inside an array and we can access any one or all the 3 elements, right? So we'll write here x and then we'll provide the index number. So let's say we want to access section 1, that is the first div tag. So we'll provide the index number as 0. Then we'll write dot style, and this style is a property dot. Then let's say we want to change the font style. So we'll write here font style. Font style will be italic. Save it. So this piece of code will change the font style of the element present at index 0. Save it, and on clicking the submit button here on the browser we can see the change in this section, right? So if it's not visible, so let me zoom it a bit for you. Here you can see, guys, the font at section 1 is changed to italic, right? So in this case we have all the 3 elements present in a array and we can make changes to each of these elements. So let's try to do it, and we'll use element present at index 1 now. We'll copy this line and we'll paste it here again 2 times because we want to make changes to all the elements, right? We'll write here 2 and we'll write here 1, and let's say we want to change the font color for this one, and the font color will be blue. For this we'll change the font weight, let's say, and we want to make it bolder. So we'll write here bolder. Save it, and on clicking the submit button you can see we have all the 3 sections with some minor changes. The first one is changed and we have italic over here. For the second one we have blue color as font color, and for the third one, which is section 4, we have the font weight as bolder. So you can see the change over here. So this is how we can make change to each element separately, and we can also make changes in all the elements at once as well. So for that we have to use the for loop, just like we did for the TagName method, right? So for that we'll write here, so let's comment these 3 statements first, and then we'll write here for, and we'll take a local variable here. We'll write here where I is equals to 0. I will start from index 0 and I will go till x dot length, and then we have the condition as I++. So inside the body of for loop we'll write here x and instead of index number, we'll write here I, because we want to traverse the whole array. Then we'll write here style dot, and let's say the style we want is background color. We want the background color to be, let's say, yellow. Fine. So this is how we can use the for loop. Save it, and we'll see on clicking the submit button on our browser, the background color for all the three sections, that is 1, 2 and 4, is changed to yellow. This is how we can use the document.getElementsByClassName method to access all the elements present in an HTML file with a particular class. Next up, let's discuss the difference between the ID method, TagName method and the ClassName method. So we'll discuss when to use which method. So let's start with the ID method. So the ID method is used when we want to access a single element, and we have to provide a unique ID to that element in order to access it. So the ID method is quite useful when we want to work on a single element. Apart from that, if we want to work on more than one element, we have two other methods. We can either use the ClassName method or the TagName method for more than one element. So the TagName method is also quite useful when we want to access elements with the same tag name. We can access all the similar tags present within an HTML document with the help of TagName method. The only problem is we can access similar types of tags only at one time. We can't access two different types of tags with this method. So this is where the ClassName method comes into play. We can access more than one element with this method, and the elements can be different. Just like we did here, we had div tag and paragraph tag, right? So the section 1, 2 and 5 are from div tags, and the section 4 and 3 are from the paragraph tags. So we can access two different tags with same class name with the help of ClassName method in JavaScript. So with this we came to the conclusion that more than one element in the HTML file can have the same class and can be accessed with the ClassName method. So by now I hope you guys understood the concept of all the three methods which we have discussed: the ID method, the TagName method and the ClassName method in JavaScript. We can use any of these methods according to our needs. So that's all for this video, guys. See you in the next one, where we will go through the on mouse over and on mouse out events in JavaScript. If you liked this video, do give it a thumbs up. If you have any doubts, do let us know in the comments below. Share it with your friends and don't forget to subscribe SimpliCode. Thank you.